Welcome to our Employment and Transition Services Town Hall. So glad we've got so many folks that have decided to join us this afternoon and spend some time learning about employment services and transition services through the Department of Rehabilitation. So I have the privilege of introducing two of our community partners. First, we'd like to introduce Christine Haswadi. She is the Community Resources and Development Specialist for the Van Nuys, Foothill, and Santa Barbara districts. She started her career with DOR as the Community Resources and Development Specialist in the Inland Empire District. She's the liaison between the community resource providers and the Department of Rehabilitation, very dedicated to ensuring consumers are able to access the services and resources they need through our community resource partners, and believes in DOR's mission of employment, equality, and independence for the individuals they serve. She has a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Northern Colorado and a master's degree in management from the University of Redlands. We also have her partner today in this presentation, and that's Ms. Brenda Seiden. And she's held various roles with the Department of Rehabilitation and is currently a counselor in the Van Nuys District Office. And during her time at DOR, she's been the liaison counselor to high schools, post-secondary institutions, supported employment service providers, and other community partners. And as a former DOR consumer herself, she's extremely dedicated to assisting all DOR consumers in finding employment, equality, and independence. Brenda has a bachelor's degree in psychology from Villanova University and a master's degree in college counseling and student services from Cal State University, Northridge. So I will turn it over to Christine and Brenda.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am so pleased to be here and presenting and meeting with you all. Again, as Ruth introduced my name is Christine Haswadi, and I'm going to be presenting today with my coworker, Brenda Seiden, and I'm going to be starting us off on this presentation today. So we're with the Department of Rehabilitation, and our mission is employment, independence, and equality. Next slide, please. Okay, so continue. We are on a mission here at the Department of Rehabilitation. Give me one moment. I'm blocking my view here. Okay, so the California Department of Rehabilitation, referred to as DOR, that is our acronym, works in partnership with consumer holders to provide services and advocacy in pursuit of employment, independent living, and equality for Californians with disabilities. Next slide, please. The purpose of vocational rehabilitation. So the purpose of Voc Rehab is to remove a barrier to obtaining or maintaining employment for an individual with a disability. Brenda, should we show the YouTube's little link here?
We can try, but it does not always work. So
okay, maybe
we can try it.
Yeah, Lillian, you can try to click on it. If it doesn't work, we'll give it a moment. And
it's a really cute video, so we should give it a shot.
If not, I know this is being recorded, so you could go ahead and go on to that link and you would be able to access the video on YouTube yourself. So thank you very much. It doesn't look like it's working, so we will continue with the next slide, please. So the vocational, no problem. I believe we're on slide 4.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have our vocational rehabilitation process at the Department of Rehabilitation, and it's kind of multi-stepped. And the first step is starting with the application. The application process is where you're applying for services. Our next step is determining eligibility. Anyone with a disability is going to be eligible for Department of Rehabilitation services. It's a twofold process in which we're looking at whether you can, we know that you're eligible for services if you have a disability, but are you going to be able to benefit from services? That's another component that we do take a look at. And then we have our accessing and planning phase. And that's where we're really kind of learning about you and what your goals are, what you would like to do in the future, education, employment. And then from there, we are going to be developing in partnership with you an individualized plan for employment. And we call that the IPE. That is the acronym for that, the IPE. After the counselor and the VR team have developed in concert with you a plan for employment, then we go into the services phase. And depending on what type of services that you're wanting to access in the community, you know, we have supported employment services, we have other services affiliated with that, we have work experience and training and barrier removal services to accompany those employment planning services. From there, we are looking at employment, right? So once we get you the services that you need, and then we're hoping that you will be able to find a job that is well suited to you and that you are happy with. Once you are employed, we would be looking at closing that case as successful. Next slide, please.
My computer just froze. Ruth,
Okay.
am I taking over the presentation? I cannot move forward. Sorry about that, Christine.
No problem. Thank you so much.
I can take that over if you can just give me 1 second.
Of course.
Let me see. Oh, are you doing it?
Yeah, I can do that, Ruth. That's no problem.
Okay, because I was trying to pull mine up.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And we'll be back to our presentation momentarily. Thank you all for your patience. It's always fun when there's technical related issues. It doesn't seem that they go unnoticed, right?
And it wouldn't be a meeting in 2021 unless there were some technical difficulties, right?
I agree with you, Brenda. I absolutely agree with you.
Par for the course.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the VPN. Just
Mhm.
kick me out.
No problem.
Jennifer, do you have it? Let me.
I see it up,
There we go.
and that was
That's it.
yeah, so we are ready. This was our vocational rehabilitation process that I just talked about. So we are ready for the next slide. And then Brenda, I'm just keep me updated when you're ready to take over, because I can't see the slide numbers.
I think this is slide 5.
Okay,
But
great.
whenever you need me to jump in, I can.
Okay, so I'm gonna go till just a few more slides till slide 7,
Okay.
and then we can hop in. So great,
Okay.
thank you so much. Okay, so we have our Department of Rehabilitation. We have our application process. So a prospective consumer can apply by calling their local Department of Rehabilitation office and or walking in. And also, Brenda, I believe you can apply online now. Is that correct?
Yes, you can. You
Okay.
can apply online, and then the applications will go to the designated offices.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. So it's like a cloud-based system. You can apply online, and based on your geographic location, they'll assign your application to a local branch office.
Right.
Thank you so much. If you do walk into one of our local offices, the counselor on duty will talk to you to open a case, or you can set up an initial intake appointment. And the counselor will give you an orientation about our services and other pertinent information. Next slide. We have our eligibility determination phase at the Department of Rehabilitation, and this is going to be determined by the vocational rehabilitation counselor. All of our VR counselors are certified rehabilitation professionals. And there are a multitude of things that we're going to be considering when we're looking at eligibility. One is disability. 2 is the impairment must constitute an impediment to employment. So there must be a barrier to employment that exists. The individual must benefit from vocational rehabilitation services to prepare for, enter, engage in, or retain gainful employment consistent with the individual's strengths, resources, priorities, concerns, abilities, interests, and informed choice. And the individual must be capable of, I'm trying to see, I can't read that very last slide
Of
here.
achieving employment.
Oh, thank you, Brenda. It was blocked
There you
with
go.
my screen over
Mm.
here. So the individual must
Okay.
be capable of achieving
Mhm.
employment as well. That is part of determining the eligibility for vocational rehabilitation services through DOR. Next slide, Brenda. Is this slide 7 or 8?
Yeah, so I believe this is slide 7, but I can go ahead if you would like me to.
Sure, go ahead and take over, Brenda. I'm gonna
So
let Brenda
part of-
take over.
So thank you everyone for being here today, and thank you for letting us be here with you. So part of the process next is planning and assessing. Career planning, what would you like to do? What would you want to do? Exploration. What are your options? What is out there? What is locally available? What is your interests? What do you like to do? What are you good at? Researching the steps and requirements to get the right vocational goal for you, to making sure that you know what it is that is a part of the job that you want to go for. Considering the results we come up with and joint planning. Next slide, please. And again, all of this goes into the individualized plan of employment, which is very similar to the IPP on the regional center side. The IPE was the acronym for Individualized Plan of Employment. We identify an employment outcome. We select the rehabilitation services. We choose the service providers. We establish timelines, identify responsibilities, and we consider anything else that would be pertinent to the goal, like certifications, any other licensure, that sort of thing. Next slide, please. So again, some of the tools and resources related to services, vocational counseling and guidance, making sure that you know what it is that you're going for and what needs to happen to get there. Career assessments, do you know what you like to do? Are you aware of the possibilities that are out there? Referrals and getting assistance from other agencies like the regional center. Career education and training, going to various local occupational centers, community colleges. What kind of occupational licenses do you need? What kind of tools do you need? Equipment and books and supplies. Transportation assistance related to helping you to get a bus pass or helping you to learn how to take the bus. Travel training, job searching, interviewing skills, and job placement. This is kind of the most important part of the whole thing. Everything that Department of Rehabilitation does is to end the goal of employment. So following up with disabled veterans to assist them in maintaining employment. And if you need it, helping you to explore the rehabilitation technology. Next slide, please. So this is, part of the end point of your case where employment case closure. And some of the criteria that we look at for success are, what are the rehabilitation services that have contributed to the outcome? Is this the right job for you? Is it the right workplace for you? Are you employed for over 90 days? And do you and the counselor agree on this employment? And this is very critical. We cannot close your case successfully unless you agree. Okay, next slide, please. So student services is part of one of the newer services that came into DOR after 2014, and it exists to provide students with disabilities a chance to explore the world of work, to gain some hands-on experience, to gain confidence and boost skills that are needed in work, school, and in general life overall. Okay, next slide, please. So the eligibility requirements to be a student with a disability are being 16 to actually 22 years old right now. Enrolled in an education program, including homeschool alternate programs, have an IEP, 504, or disability. And it's, you don't necessarily need to have all these things, but you need to be eligible to have those things. And the services that exist within student services are job exploration counseling. Can you go back one slide, please? Post-secondary counseling, which is really helping you explore what are schools available, what are programs available, work-based learning training, which is probably one of the most popular things, helping you to be successful on the job. Self-advocacy, which is helping you to learn about what you need to do to be able to speak for yourself and be independent, and a work-based learning experience. Okay, next slide. Do you want to take over from this?
Yeah, I'll take over for supported employment. Thank you so much, Brenda. And okay, great. So we have supported employment services here at the Department of Rehabilitation. And then this is one service that we partner with Regional Center on. And we work with our local community resource providers that are vendored and certified to provide supported employment services in assisting you in finding employment. Supported employment, it's in place for individuals who need extensive support to obtain and maintain employment. Individuals must be Department of Rehabilitation consumers classified under Priority 1 category. So what that means is that the barrier there is existing, and everyone who has a regional center case will be identified as having a Priority 1 category classification with Department of Rehabilitation. Individuals must have access to an extended service provider, such as the regional center, to cover funding of services once DOR closes the case. So what happens is Department of Rehabilitation will fund those initial supported employment services and will fund those initial job coaching supports. And then once that person is stabilized in that employment, then we will transition back to Regional Center, and then they can continue to fund those job coaching supports. Individuals can be referred to Department of Rehabilitation through their case service coordinator at Regional Center and with the assistance of a community resource provider. You know, this is probably the most preferred method to come to Department of Rehabilitation if your goal is going to work. So if your goal is to work in the community, you can let your case service coordinator at Regional Center know that you're interested. They can partner you with a community rehabilitation provider that provides supported employment services. And together we will coordinate and get you in plan so that you can receive those services. Next slide. Supported employment will always exist in an integrated setting, and competitive employment, earnings at minimum wage or above, or employment in which a consumer is working towards achieving competitive employment. But really, we're going to be focusing on that competitive integrated employment. An integrated setting means that you're amongst people that are without disabilities and some are with, but you're not working in, for example, like a sheltered workshop setting where all of your coworkers are also people who have disabilities. And there are flexible strategies to meet the abilities of an individual and the needs of the employer. And that is why we work with our partners in the community who specialize in this field to really be able to meet your ideal conditions of employment and get you the most support possible needed on the job. Next slide, please. Supported employment, the job placement must always follow the individual's job choices, desired schedule, travel, and your functional limitations. So you have a lot of say in where you're going to be working, when we're working with supported employment, we're also developing something called placement parameters, where we're really kind of focusing on what environment is going to be most successful for the individual to work. Support in the form of job coaching is provided to increase the individual's chances for success, and also success on the job, and then retention, being able to maintain that job. And usually does not, so this is just some kind of policy related information here, that supported employment usually does not extend beyond 24 months unless the individual and counselor agree to extend the time period to achieve an employment outcome in the IPE. But I want you to understand that that is just for the Department of Rehabilitation's portion. You know, supported employment and those job coaching supports are really for the life of the job. Next slide, please. Okay, Brenda, I'll let you talk about our locations and, oh, you're silenced.
Sorry. So we have locations statewide. We have locations all the way up very up north in the Rowan Empire District, all the way down to the San Diego District. This is basically a roadmap of where we are. And for this local area, we are in the Van Nuys Federal District. Okay, next slide. Okay, within our district, there are 5 different locations. There's the Pasadena Office, beautiful Pasadena. There's the City of Glendale, our Van Nuys District Office, Lancaster, and Santa Clarita. Next slide, please. Okay, any questions? Now's your time.
There was a lot of information in that presentation.
A lot of information.
And we moved through it quickly, so we understand.
Mhm.
Well, we'll see if any questions come up.
Yeah.
So we have the ability to have folks ask questions, I believe, or enter them into the Q&A that's at
Okay.
the bottom of your screen. I don't see anything there yet. There is a question, will we be sent the presentation in the email we signed up with? So Jennifer Williamson, I'm going to let you answer that one if we will send it out. I do know that we are recording the presentation and we are going to make it available. We typically make presentations available on our website, which will include a link to our YouTube channel. And so that's where we'll actually be able to access the.
Yeah. And one thing I just wanted to add is that we do have a team dedicated to the student services in each of our, I think there is at least one designated counselor and service coordinator in each office. Is that correct, Brenda?
Right. In the Van Nuys District's office, we have 3.
Okay, great.
We have 3 counselors.
Yeah, so we're working very closely with our local education partners, and they're doing a lot of outreach, and we're working at the high schools and then the different, and not just the traditional high schools, the other, you know, some of the non-traditional schools as well. So we do have a whole team dedicated to those student services. And then, you know, obviously our focus today is on employment, but we did highlight some of the other services we do provide through education and training. The end goal is going to be employment at the end of the day. You know, with Department of Rehabilitation, you may be focused on education and training, but once you've completed that and you've met your goal, the next goal is to get you employed in the community. I think, was there one question that came in, Ruth?
There is. I was just checking Jennifer Williamson. Is Jennifer? Yeah, she's still on with us.
Yes, I am. Ruth, you answered my question, or you answered exactly as I was going to state that our recording will be on YouTube, and we'll have a link on our website.
Now, in terms of the PowerPoint presentation, will we be able to provide the PowerPoint to individuals that signed up via the RSVP email?
The PowerPoint is currently available on our website, and I can put the link in the chat.
It looks like there's a couple questions that came through on the chat. It says, are you able to describe in more detail what the supported employment vendor services entail in an integrated setting? Do you want me to take that one on, Brenda, or do you want
Yeah,
to?
why don't you take that on? Yeah.
Sure. So we will, we have quite a few providers that provide supported employment services in the Van Nuys Foothill District. And, you know, through informed choice, you will select the community resource partner that you feel that you're going to be the best match with. That could be based on geography, or maybe you knew someone who received services from this particular program. And when they're meeting with you for supported employment, you know, all of our employment goal is going to be for individualized supported employment. So that means you're going to be working in the community at a job of your choice, and you will have the support of a job coach one-on-one. You know, initially you'll have, once you get placed on the job, you'll have supports a bit more intensely. And as you get more comfortable and as you learn skills and adapt to your employment setting, those job coaching supports will fade out. And that's how it kind of works there. So there's all different kinds of opportunities, lots of different employers that our community resource providers network with. They'll meet with you. They're going to do an intake and develop an individualized service plan. They're going to help you develop your master application and resume and help you to prepare for interviews. They're going to assist in finding you a job. And then once you begin working, they will be able to provide a job coach to support you in your position. And how long? Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Why don't I take the next one? Does DOR support individuals at community colleges to learn vocational skills? And if so, what do they offer? So helping with education is something that DOR does consider it as one of the services that we provide. Whether or not someone is able to access that service depends on what they actually need for their individualized plan for employment. Every service is individualized, so everything is determined on a case-by-case basis. The programs that we work with at the community colleges are ones that are already offered for the general public. You know, we have short-term programs, AA programs, certification programs. So that would be one that the person applying for services could come and explore their counselor and see what one is the best fit for them. But that is one of the services that DOR can provide.
Great, thank you. And then we did have a question on how long it takes to process and getting a case open in DOR. You know, we can open a case in a day. We have same day eligibility, you know, in some cases, but it may take up to maybe at most, Brenda, a week or two, would you say, if we needed to gather documentation from another provider such as Regional Center to best assess, you know.
Yeah. I mean, we actually, you know, like to work within the best efforts to make a person applying for services eligible within the same day. So a lot of the time our counselors are trained to make an observation even if they don't have the diagnosis formally documented. So we're working on doing the same day eligibility based on doing a skilled interview, doing interview with questions that allow a person to tell us what is their barrier, what is their difficulties. And then we locally were trying to do the plan within 10 working days. So within a couple weeks, have the person apply for services and then plan within a couple weeks.
Yeah, so if you're in plan within 2 weeks of application, you know, you could be engaging in services with a provider, you know, within roughly that 2-week period. So we really are focused and committed to, you know, reducing that part of the barrier and getting you into services as fast as possible. We really believe in the power of employment, and we are really focused on getting individuals competitive integrated employment and making at least minimum wage, and in many cases more than that, and getting the supports needed to have you be successful in that job. So.
And of course, every individual case is different. So if you want,
Yeah.
a special service, for example, that may need manager approval or DA approval. So,
Right.
but within, generally speaking, we would like one plan.
Yeah, especially Brenda, some of those, some educational goals may require more levels of approval based on what you're trying to obtain. But as far as accessing, supported employment services related to employment, that's going to be pretty quick. That's generally not going to need any additional approval. Yeah. So.
No.
But if you needed certain equipment, or if you had a long-term education goal, or there's other things that are of interest, some of those, we do have processes in place that we need to abide by. So in some instances, those types of services may take a little bit longer. But if we're looking at just accessing employment-related services in the community, that's going to be pretty quick.
Christine, when you're talking about some of the other supports and services.
Oh, I think you're muted. Okay, sorry.
I got muted. So when you're talking about some of those other services,
we're getting some feedback, but I don't think it's from you, Ruth.
No, that's okay. All right. So I think when you were talking about some of those other services that might take some additional approval processes, I'm thinking along the lines of the tuition or the supports for college. Are those some that you're thinking of in terms of the additional approval process?
Brenda, I'm thinking more of if they needed some type of AT, there might be an additional assessment, assistive technology. If depending on if they needed any type of equipment or some type of equipment for school for education purposes, some of those may, require additional approvals and things of that nature. General tuition for community college, I don't think that's going to be necessarily going to be something that's going to have need a secondary approval.
Right.
That doesn't have an extended.
What's that? I'm sorry.
We're getting more feedback a little bit.
Yes, a little bit.
So right, I was just confirming. So you're saying that doesn't have an extended timeline. That seems pretty standard.
Yeah, they may have to wait for the semester to start or a new quarter to start, but beyond that, that's a pretty standard service. Would you agree with that, Brenda? Yeah. Okay.
All right. And I see there are two
okay.
messages.
I see there's a question here that says, what if someone cannot have a job coach fade out? They would need someone for support throughout. Does that disqualify them? Everything is going to be looked at on a case-by-case basis, and not knowing the circumstances of that individual, I wouldn't be able to, correctly respond. I think that's going to be something that would need to be discussed with the case service coordinator and Department of Rehabilitation. And maybe there are some things that can happen prior to going into employment. Maybe the individual could participate in a work experience or a paid internship, and there's other paths as well. Brenda, do you have anything to add to that?
No, you were perfect. That was good. Perfect. I'm got a lot of background noise in my area, so I'm gonna mute.
Oh, okay.
Talking, so.
All right, Brenda, thank you. Was there any other questions that came in through the Q&A, Ruth?
Well, there was one. Let me see. And it's regarding, can folks hear me okay? Because I'm getting some feedback that my audio wasn't so clear. Okay, so So as we know with Assembly Bill 639, DeRosso's bill that is ending the sub-minimum wage programs in the state of California. So we know right now there won't be any new licenses issued, and then there will be a transition. I believe it's 2025 that
Yes.
the plan is for those programs to cease and transition folks into competitive employment. So
Yes.
is there any, I know it's early, it just happened, right?
I know, within the last few weeks.
The legislation just passed. I know state council is working on a plan for the transition. So I just didn't know if we had any update, and I know it's early to be asked.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any updates, but Ruth, we've had our ACE team, our Achieving Community Employment team, involved with all of the sheltered workshops since, I think, 2017, Brenda, would you say? 16, 17. And so what they're doing is we have our counselors, our qualified rehabilitation professionals that are going out, and they've been meeting annually with all the participants. They've been talking about competitive integrated employment. They've been discussing paths to employment and how to apply for DOR services and what the next steps are. So I would say that we have already been doing quite a bit of work in preparation for this. When the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act was passed in 2014, and the highlight really was competitive integrative employment, we saw and we shifted, and that was going to be our focus and priority. So we have been doing a lot of work in those environments, talking about opportunities. And so we're hopeful that once 2025 comes and those, opportunities are, kind of, I don't want to say they're being forced, but, they'll have a lot of information to make the choice that's going to be right for them as far as next steps go.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Well, and of course, would expect nothing less.
Yeah. So it's called the ACE team, Achieving Community Employment, and they're all over the state of California. I know we have a counselor in the Van Nuys Foothill office. At least each district has at least one, if not two.
That's fantastic. Well, and another question on those lines, and I just changed, I have dual screen, so I'm going to get my voice towards the speaker here. Are you finding that more private businesses are seeking to employ differently abled individuals?
Do you want me to take that one, Christine?
Yeah, Brenda, please.
So we are actively working with employers all over the place to engage them and to educate them about hiring people with disabilities. And I think part of those efforts have resulted in employers being more willing and more wanting to do that. And that is, of course, one of our biggest pushes right now. It's one of our performance measures, one of our shared, things we are evaluated on. And, like I said, since 2014, the DOR is really more actively seeking out doing training for them, providing resources, doing on-the-job training experiences. So yes, we have seen more of an uptick, and result a lot because of our efforts in engaging them to do that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brenda, thank you so much. Yes, Ruth, our section, we have business specialists, we have a community resource navigator also. They do disability awareness etiquette training with, employers in the community. We talk about work opportunity tax credits with them, as Brenda mentioned too, on the job training options. So the department is really taking an active, very proactive approach to engaging employers. And so I do think that with models also such as customized employment, and also our community resource providers reaching out and engaging businesses, that we are seeing, a lot more doors open.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
And then Brenda, there's a question here. Can you please describe what kind of career exploration Department of Rehabilitation offers for individuals who may not know what kind of job they want to pursue?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of, a lot of different resources. First of all, our counselors come with a wealth of knowledge about, what are the jobs available, what are the occupations available, what skills are needed to be able to be adequately employed in those areas. If additional resources are needed, we have the option to do assessments with outside vendors, vocational assessments, functional assessments that do actually go even deeper and give, like a qualitative, quantitative assessments of what are your particular skills, what are your particular interests, doing inventories and so on and so forth. So those are the biggest areas of career exploration that we have. And like I said, part of student services is going into the high schools and doing that sooner, and introducing those to exploration sooner. So by the
Yeah.
time that they do want to become a part of the adult services unit, that they have a lot of that information already.
Yeah, they're implementing techniques such as informational interviewing, where they're giving students opportunities to meet with businesses and employers to learn about opportunities and different types of, careers. And they're doing employer open houses. And then, like Brenda said too, we have providers that are able to kind of do more of an acute type of assessment, using different inventories, and Brenda mentioned too, functional assessments through comprehensive vocational evaluations. And so if they needed some more guidance, you have our qualified staff that'll be able to help secure those. And, if you ever if you're lucky to have Brenda as your counselor, then you're going to be set up for success. All of our counselors are great, but, Brenda's especially great.
We have some additional questions for you in the Q&A. So one of the questions is, are there specific job sites you are partnered with?
Brenda, and you can jump in too. We have, through our workforce development section in Sacramento, they do a lot of engagement with different type of sectors, Amazon and some of the bigger like CVS, Walgreens, pharmacies, some of the grocery industry. So we do that in type of engagement. And then locally, our staff will work with local businesses on developing on-the-job trainings or work experiences, for our individuals to participate in, so that they can have a real paid work experience to, have them experience paid work as well. Brenda, is there anything you wanted to add about that?
Well, yeah, and every office, every location really does have a partnership with the workforce centers, which are county and city affiliates, to help with searching for work, doing training, providing employment services as well. So we also partner with them and do, like a job fairs, resource fairs, targeted hiring. If an employer has a need for 10 stock clerks, okay, they'll partner with us to partner with them. We'll work together, find those individuals, recruit those individuals. So really, even locally working with our workforce centers to even strengthen that partnership as well.
And Ruth, I did see another question that came on the chat about benefits, that, individuals who are hesitant to engage in employment due to interruption to their benefits and concerns over their SSI and SDI benefits. I did want to say that we do have work incentive planners. We call them WIPs, work incentive planners, that work with our consumers on how employment will impact their benefits. And they debunk a lot of myths about that. There is a lot of falsehoods surrounding employment and benefits. And so they're really able to work with them closely to develop the best plan forward. Brenda, is there anything you'd like to add about our work incentive planners?
No, I mean,
Okay.
they're all very good. They're all certified in their training, so they all are required to be certified in this particular area. So
Yes.
the counselors should put that in everyone's plan of employment, everyone's IPE, to work with the work incentive planner, and prior to when the person is in the point of looking for work, refer that person to that staff member ASAP once they get to that
Yeah.
point in their time with DOR, so they can explore what it's going to mean for you. What is it going to mean for you, your benefits, and what's it mean for your family? What are the impacts of that? So,
And they break it
yeah.
down to, they'll say, if you work part-time, if you're working full-time, if you're earning this much, and they give a variety of scenarios to really inform and empower the families to make the choice. And really, they'll see that employment is going to outweigh any type of benefit as
Yeah.
far as financial security
Right.
that they're going to get. And so hopefully it helps ease nerves and helps them to be fully informed of the process. So.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. I'm going to circle back with the two of you on that later, because I think that I love that you have those work incentive planners. That sounds
Yes. Yeah, they're all trained. I think it's through Cornell. They were hired and trained specifically for this, and we saw it was a needed service that we have, because we work closely with Social Security too, like on our Ticket to Work program and things like that. So again, this is about independence and equality and employment. So
That's excellent. So we have a couple of additional questions, and I'm not sure if this one got answered. It just went away. It was asking to explain the definition of category 1 again. So
Brenda, you're probably better to answer that one.
Yeah, I mean, so when a person applies for services, there are 3 different categories that we are able to place an individual in. And the categories are based on what is their impediment to employment, what is the barrier to employment. So when someone is placed in category 1, they're the people that have the most barriers, the most impediments, and the need for most services. So what Christine was saying earlier, people that are regional center consumers are likely going to be in part of category 1, because those are the individuals that need the most support throughout their time in training and getting a job, and actually getting a job as well. So
yeah, and then also to the other thing is when you're looking at, and then here in California, we serve all categories though. But if there were ever some type of halt on services, the focus would always be on priority 1. So
all right,
I hope that gives some better clarification. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you so much, both of you. Fantastic. Okay, so another question is, what is the process if someone has already found a job, but they require job coaching support to maintain the job? How do they get that, or is that available through the Department of Rehabilitation?
Do you want me to take, Brenda, you want to answer that, or?
yeah, I mean, I can start, and then Kristen, you can jump in. I mean, one of the things I always like to stress for everyone is we want to make sure that before there's any expectation of services, that there's a signed plan in place, and that there's actually an authorization in place to have that service. Because one of my colleagues from long ago said, if not, everything is for fun and for free. And that's not something we want to happen. So the bigger answer is yes, there could be a possibility, but there really does need to be a lot of communication with the regional center counselor, with the service provider, and DOR, to make sure that everyone is on the same page with what are the services being provided, what are the what are the dates of the service, and is an authorization in place? So there needs to be a lot of communication about that, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page and that things can be done. So that is a case by case, it will be best answered by the counselor themselves and the service provider. Yeah.
Yes, Brenda, thank you.
Thank
So the short answer is yes, but we would definitely be looking at that on a case-by-case basis. So.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And we have a question here. What is the Department of Rehabilitation, or DOR, and Regional Center doing to make disabled people more appealing to employers? And then if there's a qualifying statement that says, I think some employers hesitate to hire disabled people because they think accommodations are going to be expensive.
Yeah.
Well, can I share one of the really neat things that we've got going on in the state? We recently have a program called the State Internship Program, and that's partner with the Regional Center. We have a Regional Center consumer who is placed in a state agency for kind of like a training position and training kind of work opportunity, and they get paid for that experience, they get trained, and the eventual outcome, the hopeful outcome would be that person after that training experience could be placed in a state job. So we actually were lucky enough to have a few of those individuals in our district. We have one in our local district office who has done very, very well. And like I said, the end goal optimally would be for that person to become able to be employed in state service. And we also, like I said before, working with employers to educate them to become involved at every level, from our student workers to on-the-job trainings, to show them, that people with disabilities are wonderful employees. They're very dedicated employees. And, when an employer needs some information regarding accommodations, one of the things I usually do is refer them to the Job Accommodation Network, which shows them all like a breadth of services available for accommodations. And a lot of the time, the accommodations are less than $500 for the needs. So we attempt to have business specialists come in and do that education. The counselors can do it themselves. So those are a couple of things we're available.
Yeah, and agree with Brenda. It's going to be through education and opportunity, creating those opportunities, like Brenda said, through on-the-job trainings, or maybe the opportunity to be a host employer for a work experience. And so they can see hands-on, and then using the job accommodation network, really seeing the true cost, and understanding too that, job coaching is covered also if they need those supports. Coaching is paid for by Department of Rehabilitation and Regional Center. So it's at no expense to the employer.
Excellent. And there's the last question that we have in the Q&A is, there's an attendee with an agency that has around 325 people in their workforce development department. There are 3 different directors that oversee employment services. Is it preferred that one person be the liaison for the agency, or can multiple people help open DOR cases?
Brenda, what do you think? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, Brenda. Oh, Brenda, you're muted. Sorry. She's trying to cut out her background noise.
Yes, and also my internet is spotty right now. So,
oh no, okay.
So can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
Sure, no worries. So an attendee is with an agency that has 325 people in their workforce development department.
Okay.
3 different directors that oversee employment services. The question is it preferred that one person be the liaison for the agency, or can multiple people help open DOR cases?
So I'll give you an example of my experience. So, yeah, I've been a counselor for over 9 years. And when we work with partners, we often have a liaison so that there can be one point of contact, one continuity that they do things, but there can be more than one person to open the case. So my recommendation would be in contact with their local office, have a conversation with the manager there, talk with the manager to see what their staffing availability is, and how, what kind of staffing that they can provide the agency. But definitely that would be the recommendation I have, is be in touch with the local office, with the manager, see what their staffing availability is, see what their, do they actually have anyone there already, but they just don't know about it? And that'd be the first kind of step with that one.
Yeah. Thank you, Brenda. I knew you would be the best since you're boots on the ground there in the field.
I'm actually my liaison site right now, so.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
work. I work with everyone, but I'm primarily in my role working with our local nonprofits, the community resource providers, in the ones that are providing the services. So, and working with our field staff and collaborating, but I knew Brenda would be able to best answer that.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
We do have another question for you.
okay.
In a larger company, when there is multiple management turnover, does DOR communicate with the new manager so the employee has proper support?
So it depends, like how, what type of services this person is providing, or is receiving. So if this is a consumer who's an employee and there's a lot of turnover, are they receiving services through supported employment? Because if they are, then the job coach would then be the one assisting that person and reporting back to DOR. We can absolutely look to see if additional supports are needed. Is there some additional training supports or, anything that is coming out of this, the kind of constant change environment? Is it still meeting their needs for employment? So there are things that we would be able to get involved with, and it kind of just depends on what who's providing the service and what the services are. When they're still under us, obviously we are communicating with our consumers about employment satisfaction, things that are coming up. We're talking with them, but we're also relying on our providers in the field who assisted them, in preparing and getting the job to report back to us as well. So I hope that answers the question.
Sounds like it.
Okay. Brenda, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, you did a good job in covering all the bases, so.
All right, good, thank you.
And we have another question in the chat, although I'm going to need some help to make sure it's properly translated. So
Okay.
could one of our translators take a look at the most recent question that was entered into the chat? And while that occurs, I'm trying to see.
Hi, Ruth, this is Liliana. I believe this is just an announcement just for people just not to log out and just to complete the survey.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Lily.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so then we have another question in the Q&A. What are some reasons an eligible regional center consumer would not be approved for Department of Rehabilitation once a job is already in place? Oh, okay. So for a consumer who's already working, is there a reason that that individual would not be eligible for support? So I'm going to make the assumption that there's a belief that this individual needs a service through the Department of Rehabilitation.
You know, Brenda, you can confirm this. I think that it just kind of depends on what the need is.
Right.
You know, what the service need is. If they can benefit
Right.
from a service that DOR provides, then, you know,
Right.
then they could receive it. But if they wouldn't be able to benefit, if there's nothing that we could provide that they would be able to benefit from, then maybe there wouldn't really, then what could we really be providing? You know, if it's something that
Right.
is not within our service provisions, if the need is not within our provisions and they're not, and then any services that we have to offer, there would be no benefit, you know, to the consumer. That would kind of really be.
Automation, whenever possible.
Right.
Access something on a website. But I also wanted to kind of put it out there that, you know, for example, if I get some trash on Illinois.
I got muted.
There you go.
I'm
There you
sorry. So I would say again, that's going to be a case by case basis, but you know, just to answer that in general, you know, that would really be the only thing I could see if there was no benefit or if it's something that we wouldn't be able to provide.
So I think what I'm hearing is that if individuals find their own employment, that's not going to be a barrier to that individual receiving a service from the Department of Rehabilitation. If the individual needs a service from the Department of Rehabilitation in order to maintain that employment. So that's what I think I've been hearing. And I think some of the questions seem to revolve around